Howdy folks, I'm Cherry Chestnut Oak, curiously curating copious curios.
I'm Amber.
And here are more curios for us to curate, like this metal box, or this hard drive. They're curios. Let's get started. Or even this 0.2 millimeter pencil lead. Alright folks, and our first letter is titled, Am I a jerk for going out to eat without my husband and kids because they didn't wash the dishes? Both my husband and I work full time. I work real estate and he works at a shipyard. We both collectively work about 50 or 60 hours a week. We have 4 kids, a 13-year-old set of twins, a 12-year-old, and an 8-month-old. My husband has every weekend off and I do not. I implicated a chore system from the time that my kids were little. But ever since I had the baby, and since the kids are older, all of them have slacked off tremendously, including husband. I picked our baby up from daycare around 5 p.m., and when I get home, I usually find my husband on the couch, on his phone, and the kids in their rooms playing video games and watching makeup tutorials. The house is generally a mess, and honestly, the only issue I have are the dishes. I couldn't care about anything else, because the rest of the house generally isn't dirty, it's just cluttered. But I've expressed several times that I am tired of having to wash all of the dishes in order to cook, and have lashed out in some not so nice ways, shut off the internet entirely, and took the cord with me to work so that no one could use the Wi-Fi or watch TV, or canceled family trips, groundation, got in big arguments with my husband, etc. Things will change for a week to a month, and then they switch right back to them refusing to help. I'm honestly so tired of that, and I don't have the energy to speak up anymore. As I said, my husband has weekends off, so he and the kids were home yesterday while I worked. Before I took off for the day, I told them, you guys, chores had better be done by the time I get home. They said, yes ma'am, and then I leave. I text the husband around 4:30 p.m. asking them what they all wanted for dinner because I had to stop off at the grocery store. I picked up what he said that they wanted, and then I walked my way to the home. I find not a single dish has been washed, and there were at least 10 more dishes in the sink from when I had left that morning. I also had noted that only a load of laundry had been washed and was still sitting in the washer and was never switched to the dryer. Husband was on his butt on the couch watching YouTube, kids off playing video games, baby in her walker, so I put the groceries on the table, packed a bag for the baby, and then I told my husband, have at it, I'm going to Applebee's. And then I left. Maybe 20 minutes later, he calls and says, I washed the dishes, I'm sorry, I was super tired today. I told him that there is zero excuse for that. There are 3 older kids who have chores, and he couldn't even step up and tell his kids to complete anything either. It's pure laziness at this point. He said, I know, I'm sorry, I'm trying to work on it. Can you just come home? I don't know how to make this dish. It's a pretty difficult dish to make, but Google is free. I told him no. I'm sitting at Applebee's, and I will be enjoying my steak and shrimp with the baby in peace, and that him and the older kids can fend for themselves because, apology or not, I'm not letting him off the hook here. He had me on speakerphone, so him and all of the kids laid right into me, asking me to please grab them something from Applebee's. It's all of our favorite restaurants. I said absolutely not, and I hung up the phone. When I returned home, the groceries had been put away, and apparently they had grilled cheese and cereal for dinner. My husband and kids are still mad at me. I told them that this is how it will be every single time they don't do chores from now on. Am I the jerk? Alright folks, what do you think?
No, not the jerk. And you have a major husband problem here. Like, he and the kids, it sounds like they were all capable of doing chores until the baby was born, and OP was so touched out that she couldn't be on their butts every day hounding them to do them.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, it is despicable the way her husband is taking advantage of her tiredness and stress and everything, and just, like, he's a grown adult. He's old enough to do chores. The kids also are old enough to do chores, but they're learning by example from their dad, who just sits on his butt all day.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really what it boils down here. They're getting away with it because the dad isn't enforcing anything, and he's just sitting around and he isn't doing these chores. And, I mean, it sounds like OP only really cares about the dishes at this point in time. Like, it sounds like they're annoyed by the laundry because it tends to be if you let the load sit around all day long like that, then you're going to have to rewash it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that this is one of those situations where OP is just kind of reaching their breaking point. They've tried everything else, and the family isn't cooperating with her. So now she's just going to go and eat at a restaurant anytime they haven't done the dishes. Which, I mean, I don't think that's unfair, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, and they're acting like OP is like starving them.
Yeah.
No, they are all old enough, like all the adults, and OP's husband and the older children are all old enough to make basic meals for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one important bit too here is that he could have made something basic. Maybe he couldn't have made anything fancy if he's not a skilled cook. But also, it kind of shows that he's not even really doing anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why is it that he can't get out there and cook every once in a while, right? Why is that OP has to come home after a long day and not have like dinner ready for her when everyone's been sitting around all day, right? I mean, it would be really nice if these people could just get their acts together and actually do something nice for OP. But I mean, now she's just gonna go and enjoy Applebee's.
Yeah, and so I mean, it might be worth if OP wants to salvage the relationship, trying some marriage counseling with someone who will hopefully tell this guy he's gonna step up.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, like if he doesn't change his behavior, I would recommend potentially separating from him because he's not teaching the kids while he's teaching them to disrespect OP at every turn, and that's not a good thing.
Yeah. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. And Miss Edge 2009 says, not the jerk. I don't see any mention of this in the comments, so here's my take. Most of the bases have been covered as far as his utter incompetence in being an equal partner and parent. However, he put the call on speaker and allowed the older children to lay into you. Excuse me. He's showing your children that it's totally fine to disrespect you and that they should have no consequences for their actions or lack thereof. In what world is this okay? I mean, actually, that brings up a really good point.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is not acceptable to do this. Like, this should have been a private conversation that they had between themselves, not something put on speakerphone and blasting OP with.
And having the kids gang up with him against her,
Yeah.
you know, it doesn't make for a good household, and it teaches them to like devalue future partners, and that if you just yell loud enough, you can get your way.
Yeah. So it was actually a really gross call on his part to do that. Begin Again to Infinitum says, yes, parents should be a united front. He's acting like the ringleader of a group of bratty children. Nothing would turn me off faster. Is there another nursery that he can sleep in? And Sweet Fancy Moses 23 says, the kids are learning the habit of avoiding chores from the dad. They think that it's okay to disrespect mom and not do chores. The task of cleaning the dishes is not at all unreasonable and a fairly easy task. The husband ignored the dishes the whole day, but once OP took his firm stance, he could finish the dishes in 20 minutes. I mean, that again is a really good point, right?
Mm-hmm.
He had all day long, but then chose to do it when it was no longer needed to be done, essentially, right?
As soon as he had to face consequences.
Like, please come back, I did the dishes. Like, no, you had hours to do that. You chose not to. Alright folks, and our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Not Praising My Husband for Doing the Bare Minimum? I'm a 28-year-old female, and I was asleep earlier while my husband, a 31-year-old male, was looking after our 3-week-old. Later, when I woke up, my husband told me that he had changed her and fed her while I was asleep. I just said something like, okay, cool, and then I went to go get some food. He followed me and repeated himself again, and I just looked at him because, like, okay. He then started complaining that I don't appreciate him helping out, and I laughed because I thought it was him joking, but when I realized that he wasn't, I told him that he was literally doing the bare minimum. I love him, obviously, and I love raising our daughter together, but why should I praise him for looking after his baby like it's his job as a dad, and I would be worried if he didn't look after her while I was asleep? I told him that he's being childish, and he got really annoyed and told me that he wants me to acknowledge him helping out more. I reassured him that he's a good dad, but I reminded him that this was the first time he looked after her while I was asleep, and every time I stayed awake while he slept, he never once praised me because looking after our child is the bare minimum. He told me that I was overreacting, and asked for me to apologize. After I refused, he told me that he was going to go stay at his parents' for the night and left. Alright folks, what do you think of this one?
Not the jerk. Now, there's nothing wrong with praising your partners, but it should be a two-way street. You know, the way he's expecting to be lauded for doing basic tasks shows that he assumes that OP is the default parent, and he's doing some grand helping gesture by doing basic childcare.
Yeah, I mean, this is really a case of him treating OP like this is her primary responsibility, and then acting all huffy and expecting a medal when he does the one thing he's supposed to do, what he's obligated to do as a parent. Now, I will say that it's always good in a relationship to exchange gratitude, right? Like, undoubtedly, like, if he does something for her, then maybe it would be nice for her to be like, oh, thank you for taking care of that, right? And it also sounds like, though, she had just woken up, might have been groggy, not really thinking clearly, having this person, like, hound them for thanks or something like that.
Well, the like, hounding, too, like, because thanks should be freely given.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes I'll, thank Brian for, like, making me food or something, but he doesn't go, like, I give you your food, here's your food. Like, it's a nice thing to do, and I'm happy to acknowledge it, but, like, it would make me very, like, annoyed if he was, like, in my face, like, where's my praise for this?
Yeah. And again, like, I think it's going to be a long road if they aren't able to cooperate and show each other gratitude, because I think that's really important in a relationship, right? They should be working together as a team. They should have each other's backs. And he shouldn't be assuming that the default work should fall to her, right? This should be an equal partnership where they're both putting in the effort to take care of this kid. And if this is the first time that he's looked after the kid on his own in 3 weeks, I mean, that's not a good sign. That's really not a good sign, right?
No, I mean, they probably need to start developing some sort of chore chart or something like that, like a sleep schedule, chore schedule-y thing, childcare schedule, to set it up so that they're both doing a fair amount of the work, and it's not all OP except when he decides he wants praise.
Yeah. And I mean, also, there's alternatives, because it sounds like she might be breastfeeding, right? And which means she would be doing a majority of the feeding for the child, right? But you can also pump, and I mean, not everyone wants to pump, and that's fine. And then if they were to, then they might have a supply for the baby to use in the middle of the night for the husband to go and feed the baby, right?
Right. And there's nothing wrong with formula either. There's no shame. As long as the baby is fed, that's what matters.
Yeah. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. Alright folks, and our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Telling My Daughter-in-Law? For goodness sake, I have a life, and I'm not going to be a cookie-cutter grandma, and I will call the police. My son and daughter-in-law have been married for around 7 years at this point. They have 2 kids. All of my children are out of the home and living their own lives. My husband and I are still working and probably will retire in 10 to 15 years, around 70. My daughter-in-law and I got on much better before the kids came into the picture. They live 30 minutes away, and she is always trying to drop them off. I thought my son was in on this, but no. I sat them down, and he had no idea what was happening. I showed him the many texts for me to babysit, and he was under the impression that I only babysit twice this month, not 16 times. Apparently, she has been dropping them off with me to hang out with people, and my son was under the impression that she was taking them with her. I started to communicate in a group chat with them so that everyone was on the same page. I only responded to her in the group chat, and if she starts to spam me with texts about it, I throw in a screenshot in the group chat, and I have to let my son deal with it. We have talked, and it comes down to her wanting the kids to have the same relationship that she had with her grandparents. In short, I explain that I am still working, and I will not have that relationship. That I can't have the kids every other day, just like she had growing up. We agreed to every 2 weeks to have a grandma day. All good for about a year. My son is now traveling for work, and she is at it again. The time difference makes it hard for him to shut her down when it happens. I was home for about an hour when she showed up at my home. She wanted me to babysit when she went shopping. I had had enough at this point. I told her, for goodness sake, I have my own life, that I will not be a cookie-cutter grandma, and that if she wants and tries to leave the kids with me from now on, without any agreement, that I will call the police for abandonment. She called me a jerk and stormed off. My son called me trying to smooth it over, saying that I may have gone too far. Edit, for everyone going on about how he couldn't know, doesn't he talk to the kids? The kids were 4 months and 1 year and 3/4 years old at that time when she was dropping them off. They weren't really talking. The oldest for sure could move, but not a big talker. It really hit off when she was pregnant, and it got even worse when the second one was born. Alright folks, what do you think?
No, not the jerk. I mean, OP made her boundaries very clear, and daughter-in-law was being very shady about this and, trying to pretend, because she knew it wasn't acceptable, so trying to pretend to her husband, oh, I'm only dropping the kids off at your mom's a couple of times a month when it's like every other day. And continually trying to go behind her husband's back to manipulate OP. Like, OP's well within her right to shut that down.
Yeah, I think that this is a horrible situation for OP. OP is really just trying to do their job. They're trying to basically juggle all these things. They're not going to retire for another 15 years, and they're being treated like free childcare all the time, right? And that's just not feasible, and it's not something that OP even wants. So I can understand why she would threaten the police at this point in time, because her son can't take care of the situation, and like, as much as she probably loves her grandchildren, she doesn't want to establish this pattern where she can just have her boundaries run all over. So let me know what you folks think, though. Anyhow, take care and good luck. And a chipped mug of chai says, not the jerk. That's nice that she had that kind of relationship with her grandparents, but absolutely nothing entitles her to force it on you. Good job on the boundaries. Your son needs to step up too, though, and get more involved with his own kids. The group text idea was brilliant and is a great way to keep him in the loop. And OP replies, don't make assumptions. He is very involved with the kids. When he comes back from the trip, he will always take the kids out and let her have a chance to herself. He has been to every milestone that they've had, and he just gives her weekends trips with her friends for Mother's Day and stayed behind with the kids. He goes to the doctor's appointments, they switch off childcare mornings and nights. He takes them with him all the time. He spends alone time with the kids. The kids are in daycare, so they really have nights together. He's a good father. It's not his fault that he needs to travel for work so that they have money. That's just what happens when you are the main breadwinner. Work says go do that, and you have to go do it. I mean, this actually brings up a lot of interesting information, too. Like, if he's this involved with the kids and is doing this much in the way of child rearing as well, it really shows that she's kind of, the daughter-in-law is really entitled here. She is just basically trying to get out of doing as much childcare as possible, it feels like.
Well, almost. That is what it feels like. Like, she's like, oh, I guess I don't really like taking care of kids. Let's go dump them on whoever I can.
Yeah. Let's go to the mall. Let's go here. Let's go there. I don't know. I mean, I can understand, like, getting tired of caring for the kids all the time. But, again, like, hopefully things will be a little bit better when the husband comes back from his trip. Alright folks, it is tea time. Grab your beverages of choice. I've got some tea right here, and Amber, she has a joke.
Chris, how are your violin lessons going? Liz, very well. I've already mastered the first steps. Chris, I thought you were supposed to play the violin with your hands.
You know, if you're walking on violins, you might be playing the violin wrong. Maybe. And I have Mega Mint. Alright folks, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for watching. Happy, spectacular Saturday, folks. I can't believe it. I hope it's spectacular for you. And folks, also, we have a live stream coming up on the 31st. That's a week out. So stay tuned for that. Amber, we need some kind of moral advice and or guidance, and please have it on parenting.
When there are two parents in a relationship, it's important that they both do their fair share.
Yeah, it is. It is. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
Bye.
Was looking after our 3-week-old. The oldest 3-weeker in the history of time.